All right, folks, how you doing? So, just to let you know, quick announcement: I'm going to be continuing the Mars, Atlantis, and the Hollow Earth series. I've got three more sources lined up that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using Children of the Matrix, The Biggest Secret, both by David Icke, and a source by an author called Brian Desborough, They Cast No Shadows. So it's going to be interesting getting into the subject even deeper in the future. Thanks to those who have watched the presentation so far. I've no plans on really ending it at the moment. I'll just take it as far as it can go, really. And I think the last way I did it, the last time, using three sources, is probably the best way to do it. Two by the same author, one by an alternative author. I think that worked fairly well. When you strike a system that works, stick to it, I say. So within the next few weeks or months, I'll be putting up parts 4, 5, and 6. I still have it in mind to cover Osiris in the future, but I don't want to get sidetracked at the moment. I want to keep going and continue the momentum and really get into the whole Mars Atlantis Hollow Earth connection even more extensively in the future, because I think I've just began to scratch the surface when it comes to all this stuff. I'm going to get into all these sources in depth, in detail. I'm going to put it in presentation form so it's easy to follow, easy to understand, very cohesive and coherent. Like I say, thanks to all those who have watched the series so far. Feel free to leave comments below. Let me know what you think of them. Is there anything I'm doing wrong? Anything that needs tweaked or improved? Or are the presentations too short? Or do you want them to be longer? I welcome all feedback, because that's how you learn. You learn from feedback. You learn from criticism and commentary and all this sort of thing. And I've enjoyed making these presentations, and I think they're absolutely vital to understanding the correlation between these three things: Mars, Atlantis, and the Hollow Earth are all connected. They're all very much interconnected to each other. So I'm going to be going into more depth, into more detail, and writing more presentations. So at the moment, I've got 4, 5, and 6 kind of planned out in my head, roughly how I'm going to do it. I'm taking a lot of notes at the moment, just trimming it down, editing. That's the longest part. That's the hardest part, deciding what stays out and what stays in. I even intend on going back to Brinsley and Lapoire Trench in the future and going into the Sky People and Operation Earth and Temple of the Stars even more in depth. But I don't want to get too sidetracked. At the moment, I want to pursue other authors and other sources and what they're saying about all this, and putting the light on all these sources, and the information, I think, is absolutely very important. I think we're in the age of awakening right now, where people are receptive to this information and want to know it, and not least of all myself. Anyone who's been a teacher will tell you the best way to learn is to teach. I don't really consider myself a teacher on this channel, just somebody who's presenting the information in as coherent and easy to follow and easy to understand a way as possible. I'm just putting a light on the knowledge, as much as I possibly can. And I wish I had a bigger audience, to present all this to. Was originally going to do all this on the what's it called again? David Whitehead's podcast. What did he call it? Truth Warrior. That was the original idea, by the way. All this was going to be on the Truth Warrior channel originally, but that fell through. It ended up not happening. David Whitehead decided he wanted to go in another direction, and fair enough. It kind of pissed me off at the time, not because he didn't want to do it, but because it was almost finished. It was all ready to go, and then just at the last minute, cancel. But it's his channel, I certainly don't discourage people from watching Unslaved or from watching Truth Warrior, by all means, because at the end of the day, it's the knowledge and it's the information that matters. I haven't really watched the Truth Warrior channel all that much in the past anyway. I still follow Unslaved up to a point. I doubt I'll ever be back on there, because I've got a bit of a temper, admittedly. And when David Whitehead told me, like I say, it was the fact that it was at the last minute that annoyed me. Not the fact they didn't want to do it, but the fact that it was almost done and it was all ready to go, and then just at the last minute cancelled. Well, I really chewed his ass out. I'll let him have it, both barrels. Kind of like, Bret Hart with Vince McMahon, back in '97, I just fucking flipped. I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have kept my temper and but I just couldn't. I was like, David, I spent 3 months doing this, and you're just dropping me like that, and you're gonna, it seemed very arrogant. the way that he did it, and kind of passive aggressive. Like, you could be one of the great ones in the future. And when I pushed him on it, he said, like, well, last couple of shows I did on Unslaved, it didn't have very high ratings or very good feedback. And I was like, oh, yeah, no kidding, because I wrote those presentations as kind of a sounding board to get Michael's take on things. And Michael only showed up for half of one and not even Forced Eternia at all. So, yeah, no wonder it tanked, because I was approaching it as throwing darts at the board and hoping something would stick rather than going into detail. So when I prepared these presentations, I can understand in a sense David Whitehead's apprehension, because they were not great episodes. The truth about the Minister Attorney, and I'll be the first to put my hand up and admit that I could have done it better, but I was over relying on Michael, not knowing that he was going to bug out halfway through one and not even show up for the other. It sounds like I'm making excuses, and maybe I am. But the point is, I switched it up when it came to these ones. When it came to these ones, I went in the opposite direction rather than just images, and ideas, and just throwing stuff out there and hoping something would stick. When it came to these ones, I put the information front and center, and I focused more on the information and the quotes and the passages within the actual books themselves. So it's just a shame that I've ended up falling out with David Whitehead and Michael Tazarian by extension. If I'm ever invited back on Unslaved, will I go on? Absolutely, I will. These things happen. I just consider it to be a misunderstanding, and I could have handled it better on my end. I put my hand up and admit that. But at the same time, David, you don't fucking treat people like that, mate. You don't wait until they're almost done and then say, "Oh, we're not going to do it now." If you don't want to do it, just say from the start. Don't drag people along, and don't give them a false sense of, I don't want to say security, but don't give them a false sense that they're going to be doing something that they're not going to be. And I got the feeling anyway that he didn't really want to do it. I don't think David ever wanted me on Unslaved either. I think Michael kind of made him put me on the show. And I never really liked particularly being on Unslaved. I only did it really to put the light on the subjects. I always kind of wanted to do my own platform, my own thing. The thing is, I don't have the numbers they do. So, like I say, if I'm invited back on Unslaved, it's the knowledge and it's the information that matters, not my ego and not theirs. So if I ever am invited back on Unslaved, absolutely I'll go back on. Never particularly like being on Unslaved, but like I say, it's the knowledge that matters. So 4, 5, and 6 are coming up. Anyway, thanks for watching.